Welcome to the Alternative Investing Club show. My name is Daniel Homland. Today I have with us a special guest, Nir. And Nir, I'm sorry, you're going to have to pronounce your last name for me.
It's Nir Babagani.
Babagani.
Yeah,
Very glad to have you here. And Nir
thank you.
is an expert in helping people in Israel invest in the United States. And so I always love coming into conversations where we have foreign investors because first of all, it's great to be able to find a niche that you can service. And it's great also to be able to provide access and opportunity to people if they want to invest in the US market. The US market is, of course, the largest market in the world, and a lot of people want to invest here. And so I'm going to be very interested to hear how you help them do that. So why don't you take a minute or two and introduce yourself and your company, and then we'll start talking about what you do.
Great, Daniel, and thank you for the invitation. So I actually got into the U.S. Real estate as I had a day job as an engineer. I worked for a global company, so I had like day-to-day, let's say, business communication and relationship with let's say with the U.S. And this was my exposure to, let's say, the US in terms of day-to-day business. And I would say by maybe coincidence, things getting together, I purchased my first rental property in the Metro Atlanta area just as a private investor. And then I started just sharing this with friends, family, colleagues from my engineering department, and people said, wow, the numbers and the opportunity, and we can delve more into that. It's all, opportunity is relative. So versus the Israeli real estate market, it sounds like even too good to be true. But you know better than I what was the situation in 2012, 2011, 12, those years, and it resulted basically in course of I think by 2014. I had more than 30 single family transaction, and it kind of it was like a side, I don't have to say side gig or a side project. I had my day job project management role, and then I had my real estate project management, and I found myself very passionate about the real estate. I couldn't stop thinking and doing and calling beyond even what the capacity of the operations was just for the friends and family. But it started the Nadlanir, this logo, which is a gameplay from my name Nir, and Nadlan in Hebrew is real estate, so real estate Nir, although it's far away, but just a gameplay. Even like on Friday, my sister would say, hey, here is Nadlanir coming. So it was kind of obvious. I didn't need any branding, etc. And I started the company, and since then I'll jump forward from 2014 and to date it's 10 years, and time really flies by. So we've done more than 300 transactions of single family properties, and in the last 4 or 5 years or so, we also been doing limited partnership, which was like designated for multifamily and mixed-use properties, but looking really into consolidating group of investors into projects. So we had this experience as well.
All right. Lots of good information there. First of all, I always love to hear, you know, I'm an engineer too by trade. And so I'm curious, what type of engineering did you do?
So my background is industrial engineering and management.
Okay.
So, process engineering, improving methods, and all of that good stuff.
Oh, so you really have that background of, planning projects and going through a methodology, which I'm sure really helps you in your real estate.
Yes, it was kind of at the beginning really sort of doing it for fun as a young engineer. And, I was creating flowchart and consolidating the data and creating all of sorts of automation. Even before I had the business, I was enjoying it and just, enjoying doing like what I know and putting it into the real estate. And only after that, came the business. I didn't have the vision to begin with, and things just connected.
Nice, nice. So are all of your investors in Israel, and do you do any investing in Israel?
Yeah, it's a good question because there is a big not just Jewish community but Israeli community in various places in the U.S.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and what happened in the course of the years, I was getting like from people that had their day job. It could be in New Jersey or LA,
Hmm.
or what have you. Uh, just reaching out to me from ear to just hearing about me or googling in Hebrew or from different reasons approaching and we served them as well. So in a sense, and we will talk about that. I mean, the idea of investing out of your backyard in many ways, distance, knowing people in the area, knowing the real estate market in the area. If you're investing out of your backyard, it's not really, it's different, but not so much, for a person in New Jersey to invest in Cleveland or, outside of his backyard. A lot of the challenges are similar. And so we've been in a good position because what we do to help them.
Hmm. And I'm not sure that I quite understood. Do you have any investors that are, or do you do any investing that is not in the United States? Do you invest in Israel?
No,
Okay,
I'm helping Israelis that live in the US or they live in Israel, but that's, let's say, the money or the investors. But in terms of the real estate activity, only in the US. I have some experience as private, but not business wise in Israel.
gotcha. So I'm curious. I have to ask, what are the main differences, or what are some of the large differences between the two real estate markets, and why invest in one versus the other?
Well, so yeah, I mean, good is relative, right? So for people that are looking to invest in real estate and to diversify their portfolio or investment, and let's say they purchased a property in Israel. So first off, the price point in Israel. Israel is a small country,
Hmm.
so it's all supply and demand. And if just to understand the price points, to buy a property in the, let's say, center district of Israel, not just like in the main Tel Aviv, etc., but center district, it would be like just starting off 400, $500,000 to buy an apartment. So
Okay.
for people, young professionals or other people that say, yeah, well, I have $100,000, $200,000, what can I do? And especially if it's a second property, because the Israeli regulation and tax environment is not very friendly to being investor and holding more and more properties. So actually, there is a purchase tax in Israel when you
Oh,
hold uh, um, two properties or more. You have to pay purchase tax, and then some of the people, because of the price point, and some of the people because of the regulation and the tax, etc., they are looking for real estate investment solution out of Israel, not just the
okay.
US, but primarily people are looking into the US because of
Okay.
many reasons. Yeah.
So how do you go about finding a property when you're so far away? You're looking for properties in the US. You're, part way around the world, maybe like a third of the way, maybe a little more. Actually, it's probably closer to halfway around the world. What's your process like for identifying properties?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and we talked about the background of process engineering, and today I do it very differently than what I thought at the first place is the process to go about it. I mean, today, and I have experience building teams in different markets because in the course of these 12 years, I started in the Metro Atlanta area, but I had experience in Charlotte, I had experience in Detroit, in Cleveland. So really different type of markets, different type of opportunities, and basically the way I go about finding a deal is that I'm not starting off in a market looking for a deal. I'm thinking about people. So let's say I'm saying, okay, I analyze the market, I understand what is a potential deal. I mean, what is a deal? And I say, okay, I like the numbers. And it's interesting at scale. I'm not looking, oh, there is a one-off deal that is exceptional, and I would invest in this market because of that exceptional deal. No, I'm looking like what is the norm for that market, and do I like the norm because I think at scale? Do I like the norm? And if I like the norm, I'm going to build a team in the market to find deals, at norm or better. But if I find something at the norm at scale, I still like the deal. So that's what I do. And what we have today, for example, we have operations in Cleveland. That's the single family I'm giving as an example, but it's not very different for the multifamily or the syndication. But essentially, I have developed a kind of a system that we are working with, and I'm getting up in the morning and I have like, okay, here are potential deals in the system. And we in the office, we look at that, but we have the boots on the ground and we have the people that working with the information we want to get. And they're looking at deals because they understand what we're looking at and also what are the numbers they fill in. And we have the numbers automatically and they know like, okay, it's going to be interesting or not for us in the target zip code, etc.
So you've got a very well-defined buy box. You stay to it. You make sure that your brokers understand what the criteria are that you're looking for. And then I guess I should ask, where in the U.S. do you tend to invest? Do you invest in a particular area, or is it all over?
Well, my philosophy today, Daniel, it will sound weird. I'm quite agnostic to markets, and I will explain. I found that I made a lot of money in Detroit in 2014, 15, where a lot of people would say, don't go invest there at all, and not at that time. And if you just, if you did a good research, you would get this kind of, you would find these kind of things. So I found that in different markets, and I had to, like by the circumstances, build teams. I wouldn't go and do all the stuff myself, right? So I found that I like the better the teams I had in the ground with good team that they know what they do. I give a lot of credit to the management and the people. So then I started saying, okay, let's look at markets that I like. It can be more of a rental market for a cash flow play. It can be a different type of market back then, like Atlanta, which was more for a growth and less cash flow play versus, let's say, Detroit and Cleveland. So I was thinking like in category, like I want to have this kind of market that is more of a rental cash flow play and growth play. And then it was more about the teams. Like for me in Cleveland, for example, it was more successful than Detroit, but I know people that were very successful at Detroit and I was less, and that's fine. It doesn't mean the market is less of a good, but for me, more I give the credit to the people and the team. For me, it was better experience. So I started focusing where it worked for me the best.
Gotcha. How do you go about finding a boots on the ground type of person when you're a good distance away? You obviously are going to rely on them a lot because they're over there, at the property. How do you identify and set up that trust relationship with another person?
Yes, I think in this, let's say, real estate game, I perceive it in a lot of aspects as a game. The trust is a factor, and understanding that, I mean, realization, it goes both ways. The way I set it up, okay. One thing is that the people I'm working with, they know up front it's not a one-off transactional relationship. So I set up the tone, what we want to do, and I show and I explain that. So to begin with, you can do the best due diligence. What did you do in the past? Show me. Talk with other people, and you can do a very good due diligence. And then you found someone. So then you validate, right? It can be good, less good, but you validate. You always take risk. I mean, for me, it's a risk-based approach. I'm working with someone, so I do the qualification. Okay, it's good. I've done the due diligence. Then let's work together. Let's validate that. And once I do that, and typically when I start off a market, I'm doing it like for myself. I'm validating it, and then I see, okay, it works well. The communication, not just the result, right? How it goes, communication, etc. So we can scale. And I did replace people along the years. Sometimes it was good, but then it was less. But I think in a positive manner, I think the mutual interest in a long-term relationship, it can go a long way. I found that to work for me, and I think also this was my realization in Atlanta, and then I realized, this is why it took me like years to realize the business potential, saying, wow, like for people that will now work with me after 2 or 3 years in the market, there is a lot of value add for them to leverage from not just the experience, just from the people and the system we've worked together and the trust we built, so other people can leverage that. It took me years to really realize this value.
And so I have to ask you, you've obviously done really well with overseas or long distance relations and long distance qualifications of properties. What are you looking at for 2025 in the United States? What areas do you think are going to do well, and where are you focusing?
So I think at this time point, from just the economic perspective, and that's macro, we know that it's not an opinion. There is an inflation, and although we see in the last year the numbers going down, it's still not what we knew before. Let's say pre-COVID, we're still in an inflation period economy, and my working assumption is that we're going to see this for the years beyond. I don't see ourselves going back to the interest rates very quickly that we were used to in the inflation.
I agree with you.
Yeah, so I think in a sense, I don't know if it's going to be the same like we've seen in the 1980s, but I think it's a quite of a good reference of how real estate behaved in the 80s, when we saw inflation, when we saw energy prices more on the upper side relatively. So a lot of, let's say, the circumstances, it's not the same, obviously, it's different, but a lot of things are similar. And I think also historically, history has shown that, real estate is an inflation hedge. So for me, at this time point, it's more of the buy and hold play, real estate and time, and let it do its own magic. That's more of the play I'm focusing at right now. And I think in terms of markets, this is the reason why there are a lot of opportunities in macro level in the marketplace right now, both in rental markets and also in areas where we saw a lot of growth. And now we see like more inventory, new houses that are on the market. I think that buying properties and holding them is going to be a good prospect, just because of the price, nominal price increase with the inflation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Inflation, even though it's come down from the obvious, market spike that the pandemic caused, it's still going to be with us for a long time. And making sure that you have money in assets is extremely important, because assets, that are buffers against inflation. They tend to go up in value with inflation.
It's duplicate, Daniel, because it's also, when we're talking about inflation, so by definition, it means that also rental prices are going up. And we still see that, even though, like, look at the last year, it's a great example. We see and just yesterday, we had another cut for the interest rate by the Fed.
Yep.
And still, like, within this year, the dynamic of reducing the interest rate, we see the rental prices. I mean, I'm working in Cleveland. I wouldn't talk about all 30,000 zip codes in the US, but we did see the rental market prices still going up. And again, it's inflation, so prices going up. Also, housing prices goes up. So you have also the price momentum of the assets going up, and you also have the rental prices going up.
Do you have any advice that you want to give to people that are maybe just starting out in investing in multifamily apartments or other types, but any advice that you want to give that can be actionable for the next year?
Um, I think I really believe going into the real estate segment for people that want to start out and diversify. I would I think in both like too old, and you can find 5 7 years old play in both, so they can both achieve it. I think in terms of where and which market, there it's I think it's really personal. Like for a person, like people that come to me and say, yeah, I want to invest in real estate. So a person that has, let's say, 100 $200,000 is not going to build a portfolio of properties. So why would you go and buy your own properties? You can be passive, choose a couple of investment options and do the passive play. For me, I believe more in the just buying value add properties, good class, asset class, good products, and hold them for 5 7 years. I found that working, and I'm in the real estate not just 12 years, but I think also historically it's a good. I believe in this direction. I think it's going to appreciate more than other asset classes, and also you can get the rental play through the years. So for me, that's more of what I would encourage people to further explore. That's the direction I believe for the next years.
Okay. And the last question, which I always ask everybody that comes on the Alternative Investing Club show, can you recommend a book? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a real estate related book or a alternative investing club or an alternative investing type book, but just a book that you recommend.
Yeah, so I admittedly, one of my I don't have to say hobbies. I read a lot, and most of my readings are in Hebrew. So for me, the real estate is just part of the way, and I'm sure a lot of your audience, Daniel, they're also on their journey for success, for development, and for me, I see also the real estate just as a manifestation. For me of growth, helping other people to grow and achieve their success. There is a book that for me, success. The first thing about success is it's a bit elusive. Like, what is success? What is success for you? Also for people to dream of what they can. There is a book by Shimon Peres. He was the Israeli president and a politician. And I'm recommending this book because I wouldn't be surprised if it was also translated to English. In Hebrew, the name, and I'm translating, is like dream big, or big dreams can come true. So maybe in English it's a bit of a different translation, but it really first of all, his life story is inspirational, but he's really good at really giving this kind of inspiration of thinking big, believing in yourself, dreaming. And I really believe that's part of being of understanding what is success, and it can be different for each different person. But I think he really taps into inspirational points from his life experience.
All right. Nir, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came on the Alternative Investing Club show. The broadcast is, of course, live right now, and it'll continue to be available. I'm very grateful that you came here, and check out Nadlanir, especially if you are Israeli and looking to invest in the US, or if you want to learn more about just investing overseas in the US. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate this conversation. It was great.